All right, let's see if this thing is on. I think we're good to go. All right, so I'm gonna quickly introduce myself and then, be able to get to the meat of the topic where I really want to dive into African entrepreneurship, of course, but very focused on the long-term game of entrepreneurship, and then also talking about branding because I believe branding is what helps you stay long term in business, and then also in general, it's a very great opportunity right now in Africa to be able to focus on the youth, the young generation, because Africa has the youngest population in the world, which is a huge advantage. It's basically how you know nations like China were able to come up because of the young generation going to the middle class. The United States did the same thing with the baby boomers. Now the baby boomers are getting older, so that's why Africa right now has that young generation where branding needs to go in. So we'll talk about that later. So first, I'll introduce myself here. My name is Steve Ora. Sorry, there, Steve Ora. So currently, right now, I'm in university, college. I'm studying information technology management. So it's a mix of where we're doing kind of things like in technology based, but also it's management at the same time. So it's very good to do it because it touches on the basis of technology, what I'm passionate about, but it also does touch base on the general uh, part of business as well. So a little bit of management here and there. So right now I currently have 1.5 years more left. Now after that, I'll be able to graduate and kind of focus more on the hustle. So for me, when it comes to achievements, I think being able to just learn for the last couple of years, learning about the process of setting up something and making sure it has a good foundation, because my achievements themselves are basically learning from my failures. That's kind of how I see it early on right now, because the best thing you can do is make mistakes early on and learn from them, so you can be able to set up yourself to go and push forward. So right now, the achievements we have is with Higher Tech. We recently launched our first program recently this last couple of months with some competitors in Kenya, and it was really good experience because we were able to really learn what's happening in the college community when it comes to developers and entrepreneurs. Because going in, we thought we knew a lot of things until we actually ran the competition, and then we were able to learn on what we needed to focus on. So through that competition, we were able to create a lot of partnerships with a couple of universities. And right now, Joshua is currently in Kenya as the co-founder, and he's really networking right now. And we're able to kind of get things moving and rolling. The other achievement that I really want to put out there is, Entrepreneur Revolt, which is the personal brand that I'm kind of building based on the core foundations and beliefs I have for entrepreneurship. Been very, very blessed to be able to hit, 60,000 followers, and it's still growing. And now my YouTube channel is starting to grow, so people are responding, and I'm just blessed to be able to help other people, and then also, be able to get messages back a couple months later on how it helped them. That's usually pretty boss, and I like that. So let's see here. So the other thing that I wanted to go into here is the strategies of how I kind of go towards my goals. And for me, the simplest way to put it down is just to break it down from the long term and then kind of bring it down to what's happening today. So I usually I have like very big, like very three core goals that I want to execute like in the next 20, 30, 40 plus years. And then from those goals, I'm able to break down to like, okay, what do I need to make sure I'm doing by 10 years from now? What I need to make sure, but I'm doing 5 years from now. It all comes down to what I want to do by the end of the year. And then from there, I'm really able to break down to this month, I need to be executing this. And then from there, it comes back down to the main core part, which is the daily goals. And so for over the last 2.5 years, I literally have pages and pages of all my daily goals from Sunday to Monday, and being able to write down your daily goals every day, being able to like slash them and make sure they're completed. It gives you a certain level of satisfaction at the end of the day, but also you're able to actually see your progress towards what you're working on. And that's what's able to help you achieve your goals. Because for me, the way I look at it is if you can be able to finish let's say the 20 goals you had out today, 10 goals you had set out today, then that means the 10 goals you had set out to finish by the end of the year can be completed, as long as you're making sure each and every day you're executing. And I think that's a better way to look at it than you looking at this one big obstacle at the end of your life, or this big obstacle by the end of the 10 years or 4 years or 1 year. That's usually hard for people to go towards. It's the same thing with working out. If you want to get like a six pack and you keep looking yourself in the mirror every day and you don't have a six pack, it's going to be pretty hard for you to be motivated. But if you just say that, hey, I'm going to do like 25 sit-ups today, or I'm going to finish this workout program by the end of the day, and you just focus on something you can measure by the end of the day, that's what helps me reach my goals. And that's kind of how I see it. So the other question we had here was, what visions do you have for your community, young people, both in the country and the world? So the one vision I really have is for people to realize what they're passionate about. I think passion is very, very powerful in many ways. And I think the reason why I want to say passion is because I don't want to push down entrepreneurship into other people's lives. I don't want to push down my type of hustle or my type of different things that are unique to me. I think passion is where you can really be able to be at your best. And when you're at your best, your people around you are able to benefit from you. You're able to really be good at something, because if you're a teacher and you're passionate about teaching, your students are going to see that, compared to a teacher who really doesn't like teaching, your students will be able to see that and they also will not benefit. So, I really want people to find their passions and then start working towards those goals each and every day. And the other thing that I really want to push down when it comes to, as far as entrepreneurship, that's what I'm focused on, is just that hustle is what's going to get you there. Putting in the work each and every day is what's going to get you there. And then also the other thing that I strongly believe in is the whole mentality of focusing on legacy compared to how much cash you end up having, because legacy lives on, money, when you out, the money just goes out with you. So that's not really good. And as far as legacy, I think it can be in your own community. It can literally be just, if it's in your village and you are that person they go to, that's legacy by itself, and it's still going to impact. It's going to have that butterfly effect to other people. I kind of usually tell people, some of my friends, that, you might look at Elon Musk and be like, wow, that dude really is doing some great things. But you have to remember, he had that one physics teacher in high school or whatever it was, that one teacher who really, opened his eyes to different ways to look at technology and physics, or something like that. Something like Steve Jobs or Bill Gates, they had a teacher or maybe a family member who really turned them towards a better direction. And you can be that person as well. You don't have to start a business, but you can also be there to look out for other people. So that's kind of the vision I have for my kind of like community and the world, is just finding your passions and being the best at it. And when someone needs help, be there to help them with your passion. So that's kind of what I see. So the next question here is, do you have any books recommendation? Why this book? Important to help me stay motivated throughout the journey and goal setting. So I don't really read books, but I love audiobooks a lot, because I'm more of a visual or kind of audio kind of learner. So the one book that I really liked was, it's by Damon Jones, and it talks about the power of broke. The reason why I like this book is because it talks about how you can be able to start your, not just a business, but you're able to build something without having the need of a lot of money. And also not just that, but also talks about how, you being broke actually is your greatest advantage, because when you're able to think of how to spend a dollar smartly, and being able to maximize the ROI on a dollar, that means if you have the opportunity to get $10, you'll be able to do much more with it. And the book really is perfect for African entrepreneurs as well, because there's not a lot of cash running around for African entrepreneurs to grab onto, the same way in Europe or the United States. So African entrepreneurs really have to use the power of broke. They have to use what they have right now to help them get to that next level. And I think that's what I want to push towards other entrepreneurs. And it's kind of what I believe in. My power of broke is like broke solutions. I try to find ways to use the least amount of money to have the most amount of impact. And I think when you work and you hustle from that perspective, you'll be able to actually do much more compared to other people. Because if you really look at the entrepreneurs you really look up to, if you really think about them and you look at their strategy of how to approach things, especially Elon Musk, you'll see that he's very, very lean on how he does his approach and how he does his different things. So if think just to basically summarize it in a better way, if you can be able to spend $10 to have the same amount of impact as a competitor who spends $100, then think about how much power you actually have over them, even though you have the least amount of money. That is the power of broke, and that is why I'm really, really passionate about that book. And one other book that I really like is The Hard Thing About Hard Things. So it's a book that talks about how hard things are actually hard. Because I think a lot of people usually look at business from the outside and they're like, oh yeah, just, do this and there. And you really don't get to learn about how hard it is, or the amount of stress that goes into it, or the amount of mental challenge that comes with it. And I think that the Hard Things About Hard Things is a great book. Another one is Elon Musk biography. And it always kind of goes with The Hard Things About Hard Things. I think that's a really good book that can help entrepreneurs when it comes to difficult situations, or even just preparing you for that mental challenge that's going to be coming ahead. And those are the 3 books that I really like. Oh yeah, the other one before I forget is the bottom of the Building a Fortune from the Bottom of the Pyramid. So I hope I got the title right, something along there. It's basically a book about how developing countries, or businesses that use the developing countries to create multi-million to multi-billion-dollar companies, and they use the people who are making even $10 or $20 a month, or even $30 a month, because there's this this perspective of like, oh, Africa needs donations, but this book talks about how businesses were able to have a huge social impact by actually building businesses. And I think that's what we need more in African entrepreneurship, and we need that perspective put in place, because you can still find a way to build a business that can impact people in a massive way while still being able to be sustainable, while still being able to build a business for profit. So those are my favorite books that I really feel like a lot of entrepreneurs should dive into. So the next one here is who's your mentor and why, and / why did they inspire you as a young person? So for me, I have like different ways I look at mentorship. So as far as a virtual mentor, I would say it's Gary Vaynerchuk. The reason for that is because it's very weird. It's like his way of hustling is the same way I love to hustle. And also the personal brand I'm building is inspired from how he built his personal brand, Gary V, that I'm building Entrepreneur Revolt. And the reason why he inspires me is because not only is he an immigrant as well, but he believes in the power of broke. He believes in hustle over anything else. And he believes about passion is what's going to get you there. And that's why I really like him as a mentor, even though we don't really actually have the one-on-one talk, but just watching his content, just seeing how he hustles and seeing his story, that's basically a mentorship from a distance. And then the other thing that I do have is kind of like a community of people who I surround myself with, other entrepreneurs who are also hustling. Some of them are hustling towards African entrepreneurship. Some of them are doing more local entrepreneurship, domestic, the United States and stuff like that. But the one core thing I believe is having a circle of entrepreneurs who are also hustling at the same level as you, and also especially having a person who's hustling way, way beyond your league, because that allows you to be able to know where you are. It also allows you to be able to learn from them and also be able to catch up to them. Like I remember, for me, I used to get up at 10 a.m. when I was in college 2.5 years ago. And when I started surrounding myself with entrepreneurs who were getting up at 4 a.m, and I thought I was hustling, and that motivated me to start getting up at 4 a.m. As in, I didn't do it like the next day, but over the course of like 2 months, I started getting up at 4 a.m, and I'm still doing it to this day, and they're still doing it. And we still do we still post in the morning at 4 a.m. We see who's up, and that competitiveness is a really strong type of mentorship that helps you move with your team, and helps you move with your crew and stuff like that. And then the other thing that as far as so right now I'm learning about e-commerce a little bit more. And yesterday I was on a phone call for about an hour. He's an entrepreneur who has an e-commerce store that's doing over 500K in sales a month, and his name is Chris, by the way, and he was able to kind of talk to me and tell me how he's able to pick the right ways to market. And it really was very helpful to have a person who's done it, and they're able to explain things in a very simple way, because I feel like a mentor is very different from you just looking from the outside. Because I feel like when you look from the outside, it's very complicated. It's very hard to understand, but a mentor is able to be like, hey, look, this is how it works. This is what you need to be working on. And that's where you're lacking. And this is where you're really doing good. So from that talk, we're able to take it and then execute. But I feel like a mentor alone is not helpful, because a lot of people might get a mentor, or you might get a friend who's doing business, and they tell you something and then you don't execute it. So before I jump off of this mentor section here, I think it's very important that if you have a person who's advising you, giving you advice, you should take it and then execute on it, like the next day. And then the final mentor that I have is my dad. So when it comes to the business stuff, like I'm talking about like business, like the books, the numbers, I'm not good at that stuff. And I wasn't good at it. And so sometimes you need to get a mentor who knows about finances and accounting. So I'm very fortunate that my dad does banking and I'm able to learn from him. Like I sit down for like just 30 minutes and I give him like, okay, this is what we did in sales. These are the books. And I think I'm doing the taxes part right. And then he's like, oh no, you're basically about to hand over the government money, or basically you're filing it wrong, or basically you're about to lose money because you didn't file it the right way. So I believe you need to have different mentors who have different skills. So one might be in accounting, might be in banking. That's very helpful. And one might be a person who's an investor, so that he can give you advice on, are you really hitting your numbers very well? Then also you need a mentor who's in your circle, like not really like telling you what to do, but just making sure you're doing what you need to be doing. So that circle of friends that really helps you out. And then here, the next question here, your favorite motivational quote, and briefly explain why. So by the way, thanks for all the different comments and sections here. I'll answer them after we have two more questions, okay? Two more questions, and then we'll go onto the questions on Facebook, okay? All right? All right. So here we go. So your favorite motivational quote, and briefly explain why. Okay, you guys ready for this one? Legacy over currency. That quote is by Gary Vaynerchuk, and it's a very powerful quote, and it just has everything into one place. So legacy over currency. So the reason why legacy over currency is very motivational to me, and it's very rudimentary to what I want to build into as an entrepreneur, is because I believe building a legacy in whatever you might be doing, it can be in entrepreneurship, it can be as a teacher, it can be as a professor, it can be as a parent, it can be any kind of walk of life, just that you're focused on the legacy part. It's because legacy is definitely greater than currency. If you think about it, the people who we look up to, like Nelson Mandela, you don't talk about like, oh man, yeah, Nelson Mandela was a billionaire, that's why we like him. No, you talk about Nelson Mandela because he was able to free his people. He was able to inspire and impact a lot of different leaders who came from his generation and even right now, right? And legacy is able to outlast currency, period. You can talk about how much money you've made this month, this year, whatever, but at the end of the day, your legacy is going to outlast your money. It's going to outlast your big house. It's going to outlast all those different things. Because if you think about it, people like Albert Einstein, Thomas Edison, awesome creators out there and scientists, and those guys are still with us to this day. If you think about even Steve Jobs, he might not be with us here physically, but his legacy is still with us. We still talk about him. We still are able to draw inspiration from him. And when you're focused on legacy, it opens up room for the hustle. It opens up room for you to think long term, because focusing on just currency, you're going to get disappointed, okay? You're going to be focused on looking at your bank account, being like, oh, how much money did I make today? Oh, it's still $0. How much money did I make today? Oh, it's only $500. I don't have $1 million. So your satisfaction is based on currency, which is you'll never have enough of currency. You know what I mean? Like you just always want more. But when it's all about legacy and you're able to and by the way, guys, legacy can happen right now. Like this talk to me I'm not getting paid, right? I'm not like punching in numbers. No, like having this talk is out of passion. It's out of like me having that mindset that, hey, if I can impact one person from this video, if I can help them out, that is legacy, because they'll remember like, oh, I watched that crazy person on Facebook. He was talking about entrepreneurship, all those different things, and he inspired me to do this. That's what I'm focused on. And that's why that quote, legacy over currency, is very, very powerful. And I think you should focus on your legacy more than the currency. And here's a beautiful thing before I jump off the next section here. When you focus on your legacy, currency usually follows along. Money usually flocks along with it, because if you think about it, people like Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg, they build a legacy, they build great companies, and money still came through. So when you focus on your legacy, even though you still want that currency, currency will also follow along. It usually does, most of the time, okay? So, yeah, oh, that's actually the last question. So the other thing I want to talk about was branding and African entrepreneurship. But I'll answer a few questions on Facebook, and then we'll end up just kind of diving into, I'll just kind of close it up with the branding and African entrepreneurship, playing it long term, and what I see from that. Okay. So first question here at the top from John. Hey, what are your top 3 fundamental principles of personal / company branding? Oh, perfect. That's an awesome question. It goes into the topic. So the top three. Okay, top 3. So for me, the top 3 fundamentals for branding and for a personal brand or a business is, you first of all have to know what your end goal is, right? You have to know what results do you want out. Like, you have to have a way to measure your branding. And what I mean by that is, okay, so let's think about like Nike. Nike wants their brand to be focused with athletes, right? Soccer players, basketball players. That's their core demographic. That is their end goal, right? So you want to have the same thing. You have to have that similar approach. You have to first of all know what your end goal is. Who do you want to associate with your brand? Who do you want to be focused on your brand? So like, for example, for me, for my personal brand, Entrepreneur Vault or Steve Aura, I want to associate with entrepreneurs. I want to associate with people who are passionate and creative and who want to make a difference in Africa. So when I'm making my videos, when I'm creating my content, I am focused on how can I impact that person at the end of the table who is associated with entrepreneurship. So the same way with Nike, when they're making a product, they think about, okay, so we're making a soccer cleat. We are trying to impact people who love playing soccer, who are in the field playing soccer. So how do we do that? Not only do you have to deliver a good product, but you also have to market in the right way, which jumps into the next section here, which is value, value, value. Give them value before you ask for anything back, okay? The reason for this is a lot of people think that if you're focused on just closing the sale is how you're going to get your business to the next level. It's actually not the right way, because when you're focused on just sales, you're not really giving value, and you actually don't even end up getting as many sales. But companies like Nike, Toyota, Apple, Microsoft, when you look at their advertisements, okay, just guys, just think of this for a second. When you look at a TV commercial of like a Toyota or a car, they don't just tell you like, hey, there's a brand new Toyota here. It has X amount of mileage. It's got new technology in it. It's super cool. It's great for your family. They don't do that. They tell a story. They give you emotional value. They show like maybe a soccer mom picking up her kids from practice, getting in a big minivan. Ooh, nice and spacious. They don't tell you that, but you're thinking about it without even them telling you. And you see them driving nicely, smiling, looking at their kids in the back. Like, you know what I mean? They're telling you a story. They're giving you emotional value. And then at the end, like the last 10 seconds, they tell you like, hey, by the way, you can buy this Toyota from us. Boom. Then you close the sale. It's the same thing with Nike, right? They know their end customer is people who love like Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo. So they show you Cristiano Ronaldo playing soccer, like, ooh, look at those moves. Look at what he's doing. And then at the end, they're like, by the way, you can get the same cleats as the one, well, Messi's with Adidas. So Cristiano Ronaldo is rocking here with Adidas. I mean, Nikes. So that is something I strongly believe in. So the first one is actually know who your target market is. Know what the end goal is. And then number 2, give value, tell a story. Give it, by the way, value can be emotional value, it can be content value, it can be different types of value. Just make sure to give value and then close the sale. And then the third one is play it long term. You have to play branding long term. You should not be saying that, hey, look, I just started marketing this brand and we only have like 1,000 followers by the end of the month or at the end of like 2 months. That is way too short term. A brand is built over years, okay? Nike has been there for many years and they're going to be there for many more years, okay? And in Africa, especially in Africa, we have the world largest youth population. Let me repeat that. The world largest youth population, more than China, more than Europe, more than the United States. So what that means is you have an opportunity to build a brand with a young generation. Guys, look at this. The reason why Nintendo is big, okay, the reason why companies like those are huge, they targeted us when we were young, okay? If you come to like the United States and you ask a kid, hey, what kind of game do you want to play? Mario? Nintendo? Because Nintendo knew that if we market to that young generation, when they grow up, not only would they purchase those products for their kids, but they'll associate with that brand. They'll love it and trust it. So the reason why in Africa you really want to play it long term is you can target ages of 16, 13, depending on your product, 16, 18, 20s, so that when they're getting older, they're getting jobs, you're able to collect the ROI because they remember that, hey, that one brand or that one personal brand, that person impacted me. That person inspired me. So you know what? When I go to the store, I'm gonna buy their product. When I'm in the website browsing for some shoes, I'm gonna buy their product because you're building emotional value. And emotional connection is the biggest thing in branding. That's why you have to play long term. The same way, you don't expect to like meet a person and then close it up and get married by the second date. No, you have a relationship, you build it up, and then at the end you close it. You close the sale. So that's how I look at branding when it comes to African market, and also how the top 3 key things that I look at when it comes to branding and stuff like that. So hopefully, John, I answered your question. If you have a follow-up question, you can also comment once again. All right, so the next one here, thanks for the invites. What makes you go on to when it, okay, so next question here from Ken Joe, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. His question is, what makes you go on when the going is tough? What keeps you so passionate about entrepreneurship? So, man, entrepreneurship is tough. Like, it's ups and downs. It's, valleys and roller coasters, upside down. So the one thing that really keeps me going for entrepreneurship is the passion. And before I even go about the passion, I already talked about passion here, but enjoying the journey more than the actual destination, because the journey is the biggest part. The journey is more than 99% of the thing, okay? So if you don't love the tough days, if you don't love getting punched in the face by business, if you don't love getting up in the morning and getting an email that a customer left, and you don't get excited about jumping back up and doing it better and improving, then that's going to be very tough, because you have to enjoy getting punched in the face. And I know that sounds weird, but you have to start loving the tough days, because for me, when I get a tough day, it means a better day is about to come. It means I'm about to learn. And for me, especially in the last year, oh man, like I had some days where I was just like, for one of the businesses that I started, it does a subscription business. And I remember just like hearing that all our customers are leaving, like that's not an email you're supposed to get in the morning, especially when you put in a lot of hours. And at first I was like, you know what, I'm gonna close the doors on this. I don't need this stress. I can go do something else. But something within me told me, like, just stick it out and keep doing it. And I was able to learn from that mistake, and I was able to improve. And now the sales were able to increase by 200% in the last 3 months. And it wasn't because of just like how things were executed, but it was mostly because I went through a tough time. So for me, when you're going through a tough time in entrepreneurship, it means you are about to get something even much better, something greater. It's the same thing with working out. Like when you're working out, if you're not sweating, if when you're finished working out, you're not feeling like a little bit like you're feeling tired, then you didn't really work out. You didn't really actually improve, okay? So for entrepreneurship, you want it to be tough. You want it to be challenging, and you have to enjoy those challenges, because after those challenges, After those cloudy days, it's about to get better. You're about to improve. And after you start enjoying that toughness, you're going to want to increase your reps. You're going to want to even see more tough, challenging days, because entrepreneurship is never going to be a smooth road paved for you. It's going to be bumpy and it's going to be tough. You just have to enjoy those moments. There's no remedy that's going to take it all away. You just have to enjoy them. You have to find a way to be in love with that. And then from there, you'll be able to conquer it. Okay? So that's my tip and advice for dealing with tough days. And then also in general, just think about the people you're impacting. Think about the people who you're about to help, and think about how you're providing value, right? That's why I was telling you, like, focus on legacy. If you're focused on legacy, you'll be able to go through tough days. If you're focused on currency and how much money is in the bank account right now, chances are you're not going to make it through even a month, or even let alone a year, or the 10 years you need to make it through, right? So that's my advice for you. Hopefully I answered the question. If not, you can hit a reply and we can dive even deeper on that. Okay, so the next one here is by Tumo Liwa. And how do you go about identifying healthy competition among fellow entrepreneurs? Whoops, sorry about this. I told you I don't like reading. I'm not good at reading. Audio, yes, but I'll go through this again. How do you go about identifying healthy competition among fellow entrepreneurs, and not just people you go up against and you see you fail? You see to see you fail. So I guess the question is asking about how do you find other entrepreneurs who are also hustling to surround yourself with, compared to people who just want to see you fail. So there's a balance in that. And the balance that I see is this. So to a certain point, there's this selfish desire that we human beings have. Sometimes we don't want to see other people succeed. And unfortunately, there are people in business who don't want to see you succeed. They're not giving you a healthy competition. They're giving you a negative, nagging competition. And you want me to give you the tip and advice for that? Cut them out. That's it. Like, you don't need it. Okay, so if you find a person who's telling you like, oh, you're not going to make it, and they're building their business over there, like, oh, you're not going to be able to build that, just cut it out. Like, if they're giving you negative advice constantly, then chances are they're not the right people to be competing with. That means they're actually negative competitors. You want to find people who, when you tell them you're working on something, number one, they give you honest feedback. So I'm not here saying feedback telling you like, hey, you need to improve on this and that is bad. I'm just saying if they don't follow up with feedback on how you should execute, then that means it's completely negative. But if they tell you like, hey, look, you know what? I think your product and website is not really working out very well. But I believe that if you executed your website like this, that should be able to help you out. And the other thing you should do is measure what level of hustle they're doing. Check them on the level of hustle. Like, look, you do not want to surround yourself with like quote unquote entrepreneurs who are putting in an hour a week on their business and telling you like, hey, you need to be doing this and that. Like, what, an hour a week? We all know entrepreneurs put more hours than that in a week. So for me, some of the friends I surrounded myself with, good competition, like they were getting up at 4 a.m. to start their hustle. So I knew when they were telling me that, hey, you're not hustling enough, I was clearly not hustling enough. So that is a healthy way to find healthy competition. And another thing you can do is find ways to measure with your friends how you're hustling, right? And a different way you can do that is either by having a small group chat or a forum or something, a Telegram channel or a WhatsApp channel, and like post your weekly accomplishments, right? Tell them like, hey, you know what? This week I was able to launch my website. We just got our first customer. We just scaled by 10%. Like, and then the other guys also start posting, the other guys and gals start posting like, hey, I also accomplished this. And you tell them like, hey, congratulations. That's awesome. You're improving. That is healthy competition because you're competing against each other to be able to get, just a little bit ahead of the other person. But at the same time, you're making sure that if you see your other friend like is lagging behind you, like, hey, come on, you need to get over here. We need to keep hustling. So that's healthy competition. And if you can't find healthy competition, here is some advice. Go online, search for an entrepreneur who inspires you. It can be an African entrepreneur, and kind of like stalk them a little bit, okay? Just like, just Instagram stalk them. Don't go to the DM, but just look at their Instagram, look at their Facebook page, follow their articles. What are they doing? Because I'll tell you personally, for me, I have a couple of entrepreneurs who I'm stalking in Africa, a couple of entrepreneurs who I'm like, hey, I see you, but I want to get there and I want to be better. So you can be able to self-motivate yourself to have healthy competition if you can't find friends who are like that. And you can be able to just kind of be like, hey, one of the entrepreneurs who I'm stalking is Jason Yajoku of Iroko TV. I'm like, okay, Jason, I see you. You just invested in that venture. You're doing that. And I'm like, okay, I need to start executing. I need to get to that level. So that's the way you can get healthy competition that can be able to motivate you to keep moving forward as well. Hopefully that answered your question. All right, here. You understand marketing advertising. Okay, so here we go. The next question from Mix. Yep. So the question is, what do you do when you're in a country where people don't understand marketing, advertising, and our generation's new and technological forms of advertising? So what do you do when people in your country don't quite understand marketing, advertising, and our generation's new and technological forms of advertising? Let me tell you something. You're in a very good place, because do you know how much that's a huge opportunity for you? Because, okay, guys, I'm gonna need to take a sip of water because we're on fire today. Okay, let me just get a sip of water because I'm about to go in on this one. I love this question. All right, so to refresh, the question is, what do you do when in your country, well, people don't quite understand marketing, advertising, and our generation and technological forms? So for me, I think that's a huge advantage. I think you're in a very sweet spot because that means you're about to blow some people's minds. You're about to execute. The best thing to do as an entrepreneur is do something before it's cool. Do something before other people are doing. You're basically ahead. And by the way, that's a really good thing because, as you know, Jeff Bezos for Amazon, a long time ago, back in 1998, somewhere around there when it started, and he told people, technology people, when he told people who were quote unquote in power, people who were making it big, he told them, I'm gonna start an online e-commerce store where people are gonna shop online. People laughed at him. People said you're crazy. No one is gonna trust anybody with that. And then guess what? 10 years later, he's the one who's reaping the benefits. When people are doubting you and saying they don't understand it, that is a very, very powerful testimony that you are on the right track to creating something that's very disruptive. So another example is like Uber, right? People are like, what, Uber? Share a ride with a stranger? No one would do that. And then guess what? People are doing that. So so when it comes to people not in your country, not understanding advertising and marketing, let me tell you something, guys. That is your hugest advantage. This is what I'm saying this because I'm secretly, I don't want too many kind of like old money businesses and stuff like that to find out about African entrepreneurship at scale when it comes to marketing and branding and advertising, okay? Because I'm like, hey, let me kind of like make sure I execute in a good way here so that when everybody else is catching up, you basically have already set up your camp and set up your base. Because think about it. Right now, trying to create a company that's going to compete with Facebook and social media is going to be pretty tough. Even Snapchat is struggling to even compete with just Instagram, not Facebook or WhatsApp and all of them combined or Messenger. They're having trouble competing with Facebook on just Instagram stories. That's major. So for you, when people don't understand what you're doing, especially marketing and branding and advertising in Africa, let them be. You can keep preaching, you can keep telling them, but let me tell you something. You execute on it. You be the best at it. Be the best in your country at it. Because when the time comes, when people are starting to get on board with the trends and marketing and advertising, guess what? You're going to be right there like, hey, come on. I knew you guys were going to come. You guys were tough love a long time ago, but now you know you need me to be able to get to where you need to go. So be patient and let them think what they think is right. When the time comes, you don't have to tell them you told them so, but your execution, your action will be a huge you told them so. So I'm just going to tell you this one more time. I'm very, very excited that a lot of people don't quite understand the amount of potential in African marketing through Facebook, Instagram, and all those different channels. Like I secretly don't want too many people to know about it, but also at the same time, I do want people to know about it so it can be able to start growing and scaling. But before that happens, how about we execute on that and maximize it? So secretly, that's a very good thing. It's a huge opportunity. Okay, so make sure you execute on it. Don't let anybody stop you. Keep doing what you're doing, and you'll get there. All right, so I believe those are all the questions from Facebook that we're able to hit. If you have any other questions, send them right now so we can be able to tackle them. All right, so to finish up, I was talking about, African marketing and branding. So that was like the main topic and playing it long term. So for me right now, I believe the biggest foundation you can build is branding at scale. I think if you're able to build your business brand, because guys, think about it. African internet is not quite there yet. Like we have Facebook right now, but we don't really have Facebook. We have Instagram, but we're not at scale with that. And we're not at scale with marketing and branding. And you know the beautiful thing is, oh, I love this. Big companies, the huge telecommunication companies, they don't quite know about this. And I love that. And I don't want them to quite get on it right now. Even in the United States and Europe, big companies are still advertising on television. They're still advertising on radio and all those and billboards. Yeah, it might be working, but you know what? Facebook, social media, internet, and all those different things and videos, that's where the future is headed. And that's where you want to be. So for building your brand in Africa, just make sure you are focused on that. Make sure you play it patient because, guys, it's not going to take the next, because I was a little bit naive. I was like, you know what, it's going to take like maybe 2-3 years, we'll get there. But now here we are in 2018, and I'm still like, okay, so this is not about the next 2 years. This is about 5-10 years from now, 20 years from now. When you execute like that, you'll be able to win at scale. Don't let people derail you from your passion when it comes to branding and business. And don't let anyone tell you that internet marketing, branding, and Facebook is not going to work. Let them tell you that, listen to them, but you execute on what you believe in and what you're passionate about. Okay? So that is my advice. Play the game long term. Don't play it short term. Think about 10 years from now. Think about 20 years from now. Africa has the world's largest youth population. Yeah, we have some struggles with politics. We have some struggles here and there. But you know what? History repeats itself. China went through their own struggles. And guess what? Now China is a world power. In Africa, we might be split up in different countries here and there. It's a continent. I get that. But if you look at the numbers, economies are growing. Middle class is starting to grow. We still have a very, very large young population. And when things execute right, things are going to go into place. And just a little bit of advice at the end right here, at the end of this video, is we have a very large youth unemployment in Africa, and that's it's a disadvantage. I'm mad about how things are right now, but as an entrepreneur, we can't just focus on the things that are not working. We need to think about how can we flip that and make it to work for us. So a very large youth population that's unemployed, what is that begging for? It's begging for a business to employ them. You are the person who's going to build that business, and you're going to be able to build it at scale. So if you build your brand and you build a business focused on employing the youths, it's going to get you there and you're going to win at it. So that is my advice for that. And I hope that made sense. Okay. So thank you very much for tuning in on this live chat and rant. I love it. It was a rant full of energy, full of passion. Hope you enjoyed it. And also want to thank the host. This page is awesome. I love it. When I got the message for Stars Revealed, I was like, yes, let's get on there. Let's talk. Let's keep moving. So hope I'll be back here again. I'm not sure if I can be able to be back again, but I'll love to come back again. So yeah, thanks for all the questions. And by the way, the talk should not end here. As you saw, my Facebook page, it's right there in the description, Steve Aura or Entrepreneur or Facebook/Entrepreneur Revolt. You can find me there. Find more videos from me. I post regularly every week. I also have a YouTube channel. You can find all my other rants. If you enjoy this kind of fire talk, you can find more videos there. And yeah, keep hustling and keep pushing. And let's make Africa pretty awesome, and let's build some pretty awesome brands and businesses. And if you're not able to send your question, don't worry about it. Just inbox me on my personal brand Facebook page. I'll reply back as soon as possible. And yeah, I didn't even get to talk about the business I'm working on, but ain't no need to know about that right now, right? We're still cooking. It's very long term, right? You'll know about it when you read about it. So, but for now, I really wanted to dive into the things I want to give you value on, and I hope I was able to give you value. So, yeah, thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next time we see each other. So, thank you very much for the host once again. Stars Revealed. And by the way, before I leave, Stars Revealed. Okay, so when I saw the message for this Facebook page, I was like, oh, this page has the opportunity, and it's definitely getting to that point where it's going to be very huge, because not only is the host Emang focused on young entrepreneurs who are starting up, but she's hustling. She's putting her content out there. She knows how to execute. She's leveraging that there's not a lot of people doing this in Africa right now, especially on Facebook and live calls. And through that, in due time, this page will be huge and you'll know about it. So if you're an entrepreneur hustling, hey, hustle to be on this show right now. Don't be like, hey, I want to be on live TV. No. This counts more because you're able to hit the people who are watching it. You're able to hit the people who you want to target as an entrepreneur, and you're able to build a community. So if the person was asking a question about how do you find more entrepreneurs to hustle with, this show, okay? Go read the entrepreneurs. I went through the page, and there was this African fashion designer that I saw, which I was like, woo, that's icy. So sorry for the rumble. I rant a lot. I talk too much sometimes, but yeah, I think that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video, live call. Thanks for watching, and please, oh yes, Elizabeth, I will come back. So tell the host for me to come back. Tell the host, okay? So thanks for watching. Peace out.